Welcome, 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 welcome all to the garden, to the commons, to the center of the wheel at the center of the city of Regenera, gathering today, the day on the planet Earth of the summer solstice in the Western Hemisphere. It is the day when the sun reaches its highest peak. It is the longest day of the year. It is the day that is most full of sunlight. It is the day in which the daytime sky is most expansive. It is the day that we can see furthest in the daylight. And so it's fitting that today is the day in the extraordinary, magical, envisioned city of Regenera that we gather to co-create and co-imagine the field of collective story. Today is the day of the expansion of story. Today is the day in which we come together to co-create, to co-dream, to co-sing, to weave poetry, to weave magic, to make sense of our world, the emergent, extraordinary world of Regenera, and the emergent, extraordinary, broader world. When we tell stories together, better, when we make stories together, when we imagine stories together, we are creating literal magic. We are not just making sense in the sense of coming to understanding of what is around us. We are literally making. Every word that we utter, every image that we share, every energetic field that vibrates in our poetry together becomes real. So today, we make the magical, extraordinary, possible, impossible real. We do it with music. We do it with the bard. We come together as bards. We come together as poets and singers, and story makers and storytellers, and artists and visionaries. And we sink into this beautiful collective communal field of magic, imagination, vision, and creation. Jurgis, do you want to continue to sing us forward?
Curiously enough, last night I noticed as I was going to sleep, because I fell into sleep and out of sleep continuously throughout the whole night. I felt I had a full, kind of like full Sunday of dream binging, you know, when you sometimes watch Netflix all weekend and you don't remember what you were watching. I had that with my dreams yesterday, and I felt that I could enter the dream space very, very easily. I somehow fixated myself on some thought, and I just slipped out. And so I had a whole 2 seasons of adventures of Jurgis dreaming in one night, and it was quite intense. And I kind of I woke up this morning feeling that perhaps the veil is thin, and perhaps our dreams may reach different heights on this shortest of nights. And I felt again from a lesson I learned from some Kogi Mamos, that it is important to have impeccability of thought and of words, and to choose what we're thinking wisely, and to try to make it as beautiful as possible, for the sake of making it as beautiful as possible. And so that's the vibe, that's the vibe, that's the vibe. And I don't think that Roxy chose this date randomly. Perhaps she knew that it was a great chance and opportunity So I suppose, what do I know? I'm just a poet who's adept at all kinds of prose. Maybe I'm just making it up as it flows. I don't know. Well, that's where we are. I'm wondering how many people are hooked up onto the call right now. Can we have a moment of all hands on deck in gallery view to see who has gathered with me and you? Lovely. Let's weave attention. Let's weave our collective presence. If you feel the vibe, let it be known. If you feel the rhythm, let it be shown. Let's get some movement in the space. Let us send a message of entrainment. Let it be known that we are vibrating on the same wave of good intention. But let's bring some energy in, let's bring some snaps. Let's bring some snapping, yeah. Summoning all that need to appear. Let's bring some snaps, yeah. Let's bring some snaps. Summoning all the spirits, good, bad, and queer. Let's bring some snaps, call them in. Let's make this a ritual that emerges from within to everyone who tunes in to feel this vibe we're creating today and tonight. It may be 11 a.m. for you, but it is 9 p.m. where I am. The last rays of light of this solstice, yes indeed. All right. Hip hop. Bring some rhythm, some movement into the space. May all our good intentions roll out with grace. Let's get some singing, let's get some movement, let's get some singing. Let me prime you with a beautiful phrase. Let us try something like this. Let us try. Quite simple. It's a good one though. If you want to sing, unmute yourselves, bring your vibe. So nice. So nice. Can we get some high feminine voice? Everybody's a little bit still. Open your eyes. Remember what we did in the last session where we all came together and we kind of opened our channels. All right, so we're opening that third eye, whatever it is. Deep breath in. We go, I want to hear someone else sing. I'm not singing the next one. Who's gonna go? Let's hear someone else. All right. Let's popcorn it around. Random popcorn. Who's got a vibe they want to bring to the space? Let's popcorn it around. Yeah. It's so nice when we enter musical trance together. It's like bird songs of birds of a feather, where you feel there's a vibe that's weaving it together, and it's lovely when I hear beauty beyond what I can create, simply because you're there, right here. I was gonna rhyme create with co-create, but that's a terrible rhyme. Very cheap. That's B-rated. But we can do one more round of yeah, because it's really beautiful. I'm really into this. Un, dos, tres, y yeah. Who else? That's lovely. It's true that when people sing together, you feel that there's a collective spell which is being cast. And I feel that sometimes it's nice to get people activated and excited, but sometimes it's really lovely when that connection comes from a deep, intimate space. And I think that's pretty good. I think that's the vibe. Let me get him. Yep. Smells good. Feels good. Meow. It's really good. I think we can proceed. Beautiful human beings, it's such a pleasure to be here with Catherine and Roxy. Would you like to give some introductory words, my dear? Just so we all know what we're doing here.
We do that together. Here we've entered the third day of Regenera Rising. Wow. We are restoring. I love the word restoring. The word restore and story together. Restoring the commons. Entering the fullness, the brightness, the rising, the grand rising. The momentous occasion. Truly. I'm so grateful that we've all gathered here in Regenera. And together, we are restoring our mythic capacity to shift narratives and change the course of our species forever. Welcome to Regenera, at the heart of the Regenaissance. And in our first journey today, we go to Austria. So I'll bring Jurgi up and Anna.
So nice today we have Ana Maria Montonen. She is an artist, a multidisciplinary artist, at the intersection of sensorial dialogue, human movement, and the living, changing physicality of the landscape. She is also a filmmaker, exploring all that happens when nature, movement, design meet. And through design, dance, film, and installation, she's exploring vanishing landscapes, the parts of humanity that escape and dissolve into the ether, right after humanity occurs. So I'm going to give the stage to Ana Maria Montonen.
Thank you, Jurgis, so much. And happy solstice, everyone. I'm really happy to be back here with everyone and sharing all the visions and ideas. So I'll be sharing a video, a 5-minute video, which is somewhat a collage and musings of how the glacier landscape has become my co-creator. How for the past decade or so, my interaction and experience on the glacial landscapes has somewhat shaped my own creative process as a visual artist, photographer, filmmaker, and a movement practitioner. So Glacier is somewhat my art director, and I'm the mechanic producer, and somehow the energy of the landscape is just so huge and big that the creativity simply comes out of this. And so the video is a little reflection of that creative process, how they came to be. And later on, I will explain a little bit more about the glacial layers or landscapes. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. I would recommend maybe using headphones for the video if you can. If you don't have headphones, it's totally fine. But it's a 5-minute video, so enjoy.
Here in high alpine region, glaciers sit like frozen jaws, raw, exposed, and severe, holding water and feeding the lands downstream. I have been fascinated by these landscapes for years. For me, glaciers feel like archives of time. Living, breathing bodies of ice. Their layers are centuries old, holding compressed memory, a record of time. And I have witnessed how quickly they are changing and melting every year. We are only a fraction of Glacier's timeline, a brief moment passing through. But right now the glaciers are taking a long exhale, releasing an ancient breath, which we have contributed to set in motion. Here is where something begins for me. Gathering from tectonic memory, its ancient mass and sound filling the space. A presence so vast and tangible, it feels like the landscape is moving through me. Can we step closer to the edges of nature, into unfamiliar terrain? And in doing so, can we meet the edges within ourselves? This is where the body and the landscape merge. We walk hand in hand with natural world, being moved and shaped by it. Can we lean in, dissolve, expand, mirror the elements as minerals, fire-faced as filaments of air, gliding on the skin of gravity? until edges begin to soften. Let's gather and listen, guide as we are guided, cast in frozen water to constellate, to play with chaos, ride the wind and lean back to its railings, articulating each fragment of this fleeting presence.
That was so beautiful.
So it was a collage of some clips that I've taken earlier, 5 years ago, and some that I've created now. And I continue to film this summer on the new glaciers. I think I had also, if you could share one of the images, which I had, I don't know if Spencer, if you have it, the one where it's like the visual, the exhibition photos.
Yeah, I can. Let me pull that up and you can speak to it.
Okay. So while I film and together with fellow artists, we create soundscape. I create this sort of exhibition space where I try to bring in the presence and the aliveness of the glacier, because when you are on the glacier, you truly feel like you are in presence of something. It is so tangible, massive, and just to visualize that you are still standing on 100 or 300 to 400 meters of frozen ice. And the exhibition spaces are about projecting the videos onto canvases and walls, and photography, and also live performances there. Oh, that's the layers, I think. And I think I had the other photo as well. But anyway, actually, you can keep the layer photo for now. I just shortly would explain. So I live in Austria, and in Alpine region, I've lived for the past 10 years, and glaciers are one of the urgent, immediate concerns for most people here, as they react the fastest to the climate change. And climate change is not abstract here. It is very tangible and visible and felt every year. And in some parts, the glaciers are still, let's say, 300 to 400 meters steep. The biggest glacier in Europe is 900 meters steep. So 900 meters, I don't know how many feet is that exactly, but it's a lot. But if a glacier is 300 to 400, it needs a mass. It needs a certain mass to hold its own temperature, because a glacier creates a somewhat microclimate around it to keep the cold. And the upper layers of the glacier, so until the 100 meters or so, the ice is somewhat brittle and has a lot of pores and crevasses in it, so the warm air can penetrate the layers. But it's important to maintain a very cold, well below 0 Celsius in the center of the glacier. And the lower parts of the glacier is not really like ice. It reminds you of a plastic because it doesn't crack, it bends. It is so dense, it is so compressed, and it's bright dark blue color. And that's where really the cold is held in this compressed ice. So we need the glacier to be very thick for it not to melt as fast. But if it loses the thickness, it is melting faster and faster, which we see in a lot of the glaciers in Europe. And in Austria, there are no glaciers left. And there are bigger glaciers in Switzerland and French Alps as well. So in this region, it is the main concern, and we kind of see that. So this is a photo of the exhibition in February, which consisted then of canvases, textiles, projected video, soundscape, and photography. And in the future, I try to do projection mapping as well and bring in more live performance and to feel somewhat the presence in the space, the presence of glacier. Yes. So if you would like to, I have a website, which is anamont.com. You can visit and see more of the photography there, which I will update soon. I will add more photos. If you have an art space, I would love to bring the exhibition also to your art space and create it together. If you'd like to collab with me, come to visit me in the Alps. I will take you on the glaciers. And yeah, if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer. And I think in general, I'm just inspired by how a glacier becomes, or any natural shape or form or location becomes so visceral and so important to you that it becomes your creative work. And I think one way or another, we are all the time shaped by the natural world, whether we're using metaphors or symbols like spirals or even the rhythm of a breath. We're constantly, you know, in relationship with the natural world. And I think if something is changing as fast in the natural world, how does it affect us? And what happens to our inspiration? And I think it's really vital to pay attention, to play with this and to create with this and be the co-creators. That's sort of my passion. Thank you.
Anna, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
What can humanity learn from the glaciers?
Sorry, can you repeat
What
that?
can humanity learn from the glaciers?
I think time. Also the fact that glaciers have their own time and they are very slow. They have their own timeline and they move extremely slowly. And when I'm there, I lose the sense of identity. I don't feel that I am my person anymore, and I don't even matter as a person, but I sense the magnitude of elements and how it's all held together in this beautiful ecosystem. And I think we have disrupted that ecosystem. And what I have learned is to pay attention, to listen, to not rush. There's nowhere to rush. There's no reason. We need to slow down. We need to pay attention and listen. This is what I personally have learned.
It's so beautiful. Mariette has just mentioned that she loves the elegance of your work. And I was wondering a little bit, what is the source? What has informed the elegance in your work in the past? How do you take something like a glacier and put it into a space so that it feels graceful and elegant? What informs you? What has been your inspiration in being able to convey that?
Honestly, some of the photos which you'll see and some of the footage that I have is not so elegant. It's also, I also allowed to embody the aggressiveness, because the landscape is also very aggressive and dangerous. And it has two sides. It's elegant and beautiful, and aggressive and dangerous. And it's funny that also the spirits from prehistoric time, Persten from the Austrian Alps, they are spirits of alpine spirits that have very two-sided. It's beautiful, elegant, and very dangerous, that can destroy immediately, like avalanche and snow. And it has two sides. And with the dancers, the idea was the dancers to improvise how they sense the environment. So there was no choreography. We went there, we entered the landscape with the dancers and other creators, and I allowed the dancers to improvise. And often each dancer had their own inner dialogue. So some of the dancers did show a little edgier movements, which I didn't show here, but I have other film clips about that. And some dancers felt overwhelmed and they felt so small, and that became their expression. So actually each creation or each dancer enters with their own story, and it can also be somewhat reflected in the body as something dangerous.
So not just elegant and pretty, but something visceral and real as well, right?
Very visceral, very real, yes. You have to respect and know the landscape, know what you're doing, and then you're welcome. Yeah.
You know, that's very interesting. Hanging out with indigenous people in Colombia, they said that nature doesn't need to be loved and protected as much as she needs to be properly respected.
Yes.
So I think that speaks to that. That's very lovely. Anna, imagine if today the spirits are listening, the veil is very thin, and you could send a message, out there. I'd like to ask, what are the 3 kind of people you would like to encounter and to bring into the fold of your creative work? If you could say, look, I'm looking for this kind of person to reach out to me, that kind of person, and this kind of person, what would they be?
3? Can I have 10?
3.5, 4.
Dancers, always movement practitioners. I love to collaborate. I had music and artists, so the soundscape was created by musical artists. I look for musical artists. I often film, but I also have someone who is flying a drone. And also artists who do have exhibition spaces, who would like to explore creating immersive spaces, for an example. Projection mapping, so that I could create quite interesting, beautiful, immersive experience with the glaciers. So anyone who is working on that realm, I would love to collaborate and always up for it. So that was my timer.
Beautiful. So lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, can we get a round of applause for Anna?
Thank you. That was great. Amazing.
If you are a visual artist, if you're a dancer, if you work with capturing beautiful scenery, if you have a space, a gallery, reach out to her. Remind us once more, Anna, where is the best place where we can kind of go and see your art and say, this is what this woman is about, this is her quest, this is what fascinates her. Tell us.
My website is annamont.com. Maybe I should write that. I will write that in the here. annamont.com. That's my website. You can email me there.
annamont.com. Oh,
Yes.
super clear.
And also you can come to my Instagram or text me. And if you are in Europe, I'm very happy to collab. Always.
annamont.com. Mwah. Ciao, mi amor.
Ciao.
Okay, so now we have on stage a very interesting gentleman from Kenya. I love it when musicians are more than musicians. I love it when musicians understand that music is a spell that weaves the fabric of humanity, that shapes relationships. Even so much so that some of the people who have most affected my understanding of music are people from another African tradition, the griot, which understand that they have a function of harmonizing humanity, telling the stories and giving it the sense of what it is, and also through the musical prism, understanding that all the relationships have to find a way of interacting with one another so that they create a beautiful composition, a beautiful harmony. And so when I encounter musicians that understand that music is more than music, I get super excited. And Wahinya is one of those musicians. He's going to be sharing the curious experience with us today, which is an immersive audiovisual journey exploring cultural erosion, imposed change, strength that endures, and things like that. Wahinya, how are we doing? I'm so happy to welcome you to this space.
Thank you so much, Jurgis. Good evening, everyone. It's 9 p.m. here in Kenya. So My curious experience, it's part of a long ongoing project from Mila Africa, something that I began in 2021. And when I joined the DSS in 2022, Mila Africa was the beginning. And so it's moved on from the art center, from a permaculture garden, heading towards now digital library creations. And it's part of something, a library that I've been developing since 2022 when I began recording these indigenous instruments. And it came from a direction where people of my culture, of my heritage, are sort of looking inwards into their own past. And so it led to a sort of an eye-opening journey, if I might call it that. Might get lost in translation as I speak. So what came up is that there's a possibility of innovating on these indigenous instruments, let them speak what they knew, the knowledge that they knew in the past, the stories that have been told through them in the past, and also let them be tools for creators worldwide to use, because that's part of heritage and culture, not letting it die, but building on it and sharing it with others and letting them create even better versions of it. So that's the idea. And the curious thing is that I've been creating it since last year, and it's until this year that I locked in on it, after I sort of took a sabbatical from my music creating gigs. So I just fully focused on software developing, and I finished it last week. So creating even the demo track took me about a hasty 30, maybe an hour, and I was panicking because I've been deep in another direction, another field that isn't more creative but rather technical and logical. So venturing into the art side was a bit chaotic, but it was a truly good experience because it shows how the library came out, and just playing a few notes becomes an inspiring journey for the musician and the person who's going to use it. So there's a video that I'm going to share just describing the thing, and the music will follow later in the video, so we can share it.
Super.
When I joined the fourth cohort, my focus was on growing Mila Africa by developing one of its most ambitious projects, Curious. Now, Curious began as an idea to make African musical heritage more accessible to creators. And as a composer, I often found myself searching for authentic African sounds that were professionally recorded, easy to use, and available within modern music production workflows. But I realized that many of our instruments, stories, and sonic traditions were either difficult to access or missing entirely from the tools used by contemporary musicians. And this became the foundation for Curious. Rather than creating another sample library, I wanted to build an experience, a platform where people could discover, explore, learn from, and create with African sounds. And over the course of the DSS program, my work focused on transforming Curious from a collection of recordings into a professional, creative, and educational work tool, and not only limited to African sounds. I invested significant effort in recording, organizing, and designing instrument samples that could be used by composers, producers, educators, and students. And at the same time, I developed the software infrastructure necessary to deliver these instruments through a dedicated player experience. And as the project evolved, I began to see Curious as more than a music production tool. It became a way of connecting heritage with innovation. And for creators, Curious offers access to unique sounds that can inspire new musical works. For educators and learners, it offers an opportunity to engage with African musical heritage through direct interaction rather than observation alone. And users do not simply read about instruments, they play them, hear them, and incorporate them into their own creative practice. And one of the most important lessons from this journey has been that preservation alone is not enough. Heritage remains alive when people actively use it. By transforming traditional instruments into digital creative tools, Curious creates new pathways for cultural knowledge to travel across generations and across borders. And today, Curious stands as a professional platform for creation, exploration, and learning. It reflects Mila Africa's broader vision of using technology to preserve cultural heritage while empowering future creativity. Now, My DSS cohort project was therefore not only about building a sample library, it was about demonstrating how African heritage can be reimagined through innovation, making it accessible, relevant, and useful for musicians, educators, and creators in the digital age. As Mila Africa continues to grow, Curious serves as both a creative tool and a living archive, one that invites people to discover the richness of African sound heritage while contributing to its future.
It's really beautiful, enchanting.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. The idea was, I wouldn't say much about the music idea because it's something that came from scratch, but it incorporates three indigenous instruments. That's lolwe, a harp from Western Kenya, the rattle kalimba, the mbira that we all know, and another harp from West Kenya called Elgon. It's an Adunga harp, right? It's sitting right behind me. Okay, maybe it's not going to be seen, but yeah. So the idea was to create musical heritage and not more of an empowerment, but tell stories from a genuine point of view and stories that incorporate a post-colonial Africa, and that's not stuck in the past, but is forging forward with what it has. And yeah, basically that's that.
Wahinia, let me ask you a question, because you're clearly one of those artists which is super multidisciplinary, multifaceted. You're interested in this aspect, you're interested in the music, in the musicology and philosophy, in the repercussions it has for the societies as well, and all of this. But I want to grab a handle of like who you are and what you're working on, because you're Wahinia, you have Mila Africa, you have the curious you have the curious experience, you have the Tamaduni circle. Give us some sense of who you are and how you relate to these projects, so we get a good sense of who you are and what you're doing.
So I would start by saying a composer at first. I create music. That's what I've been doing since 2016, 17, 18 when I started out. And part of that journey came by sort of having that idea of there are many musical instruments that I haven't heard of. And there's a institution in Nairobi called the Bombers of Kenya, where it's more of a heritage center where different cultures come and play their own stuff. They sing their own folk songs and folk fusion songs. So it started as an idea in 2020 about creating sample libraries and instruments from Kenya and generally African instruments. So that grew into something that sort of went along with my composition. So rather than just fetching sample packs and maybe like buying sample libraries that maybe I'll just use once, so maybe let me just find a musician, record them, and tweak it all out. And honestly, I've never studied software development, so that's something that I just learned from scratch. And I come from a community that's sort of business oriented. Growing up, my dad owned a school, so I grew up watching him sort of managing finance and running the show, and it sort of caught up with me. And I decided maybe I want to do something else, and if it's okay, I can start my own art school. And that's how the art center popped up. And so it grew, and with the times, the way life is and times go, so it propped up. I might get lost in translation here, and I might lose my English diction. So it sort of grew, and that's when I actually met a certain person called Ruta from cohort 1 from Design Sense Studio, who introduced me to this group. And since then it sort of propped up better on, and now Mila Africa is, I would say, the parent company in quotes, if not to get lost. So in it there is the Curious library. That's part of Mila Africa. So Mila Africa has the art center, has the permaculture garden, and in the future will hold more and more a community area and an art school, an art center, that is. And now the Curious project, that the Curious library, is just a byproduct of Mila Africa with what we've achieved so far. Now the Tamaduni circle, okay?
No, good. Finish. Tamaduni circle is?
The Tamaduni circle is an invitation to people who value heritage. And Tamaduni actually means heritage in Swahili. So it's a heritage circle, and it's an invitation to people who value heritage and see something in it. And we're not calling them patrons, but we're calling them forgers of the new path, forgers of the future. They're the people who are part of the heat that's forming the iron melting pot. I don't want to get lost.
Yeah, it's a melting pot, the cauldron of creativity. So let me see if I get this right. So you're Wahinia, right? And you're a composer. And instead of just recording some musicians, you said, how can I make my life super difficult? And you created this whole kind of like beautiful instrument. It's a VST AU instrument that you can plug into your DAW. Musicians will know what we're talking about. So they can plug into this heritage, right? And you did that through this kind of like incubator situation, which is called Mila Africa, right? With people, like-minded individuals. And what you want, that Tamaduni would be stewards of this kind of culture, people who come together and share, right?
Yeah, right.
Amazing. So people can actually get, go heads into the creativity, the musical, acoustic heritage of Africa through this curious app. They can install it. What do they need to do to install it, to get it?
Oh yeah, sure. So it's available in Mac and Windows versions, and it's a standalone app, just for people who are in music creators but want to sort of have an instrument they can play in their free time. And then it's also packaged as a VST and AU plugin. So for the music creators, for composers, and for people who sort of look for curious, curious actually means that interesting thing that you want to keep, So who are interested in that, they can access it. And I'm actually right now building the website and all that, so it's a bit sort of a construction site, if I might say that. So yeah, they can access it. It will be available right now. It's in beta, so I have some friends who are testing it out, and then maybe next week, it'll be on ready for people to use. Yeah.
Amazing. We want to get into your journey. What's the easiest way for us to get into your journey? Where do we go?
Okay, that will be my website. That will be Mila Africa, actually, because it contains everything, the information that's required. And right now I'm now talking about making my life hard through through creating everything. So I would say most of the information will be gotten from the website, and maybe through communication. That will be my email. That's wahinyamurikia@gmail.com, or maybe to make it easier, wahinyamusic@gmail.com. That would be quite easier. And yeah.
And we're looking for musicians, we're looking for producers, we're looking for artists. Is that right? Also people who work in the audio equipment programming space to experience this. I think the most beautiful thing, my friend, is that you wanted to create something that exposes and shares the cultural heritage of Africa, and what you created is a musical toy for people to be able to explore themselves, right?
Yeah. It's something of a journey. I don't want to call it a rabbit hole, but it's not bad if you get into it, Yeah.
That's amazing. Can we get a big round of applause for Wahinia? Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for making your creativity something accessible so that everyone can enjoy and go down their own rabbit hole. Mwah. Up next, we have Mariana Grossman, who's building a center for resilience, advancing climate solutions, and community resilience in her own home. From what I heard is that she'd worked previously with all kinds of other initiatives, and then she realized that she wanted to bring it as close to her home as possible. And so the center is your actual home. Is that right, Mariana?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm going to give you the stage and to tell us a little bit more about the Center of Resilience you are creating, so that people can initiate resilience locally and learning from this node for change makers you have created.
Oh, there we go. I will share my screen and welcome you to my Center for Resilience, which I am creating, and it's okay. And I am excited to be here, and Anna and Wahinia, your work is so inspirational, and I'm working to create a little center for resilience that could connect with the creative forces that you're bringing into the world. So for many years, I looked at the science of climate change and the interlocking meta-crises, biodiversity loss and resource depletion and pollution and conflict, and the impacts of inequality and social fragility. And I could see that humanity and the planet are in trouble. I was very lucky in college to study with the great late Donella Meadows, who we called Dana, and Dennis Meadows. And I studied systems dynamics and how to model complex systems to think about how to make an impact in policy and in institutional change. One of the articles that Dana wrote that was very powerful was about leverage points of where you can intervene in the system to make a difference. And you could do physical kinds of changes and then look at patterns of behavior and laws and rules, systemic structure. But the most important thing is the paradigm that we're living in and really leading from love. That's what I learned from her. And she died a very untimely death in 2001. And it was a big shock because I was raising my little kids and working and kind of carrying on my life. And I was hoping that she would sort of lead the change in the world. And I realized that she's gone and it's up to me to step forward and to do my part. So I tried everything. I worked to elect progressive leaders and to work with companies. I led a nonprofit called Sustainable Silicon Valley for 7 years. We worked changing education and finance and venture capital and faith communities and supporting startups. I worked to elevate solutions and to build bridges among all these sectors to create shared vision and to catalyze action. And we made some progress, but it really, I realized that what I was doing is handling my anxiety. I was worried and I wanted you to change. I wanted to change the institutions, and I think that's great to work on changing institutions, but I led a workshop 4 times during the beginning of the pandemic called Remembering the Future, and we took ourselves on a vision journey into the future and talked to our either physical or ethical descendants, or biological or ethical descendants, to find out what had we done now that made a difference to them in the future. And each time I had a vision that I had transformed my garden and the building that was my little garage into a center of resilience, and that was what my legacy was. And one of the things we looked at is, what if everything worked? What if we had a world of abundant joy and well-being for all? What if economic activity was regenerative, making things better without pollution or exploitation of resources or people? What if we grew food in a way that enhanced soil fertility and improved our health? What if every neighborhood was vibrant with neighbors knowing and helping one another? What if we could have fun working together, sharing knowledge and resources? What if I started with myself? So I moved to Portland from Silicon Valley, and I decided I would start a Center for Resilience. And I had a professor in college named Kenneth Boulding, and he said, if it exists, it must be possible. And I thought, well, I could be this example, and people could think if she could do it, I could do it. So I decided to work on building resiliency by creating this model. It's a physical place. We're building an apartment and a garage, and the garage will be a gathering space as well as a garage and a garden. And then the building itself is an example and teaching tool using sustainable design systems and materials. I'm working with a contractor who's a design build contractor with experience in green building. And then I'm also creating a virtual presence to share resources, connecting with other centers of resilience and innovation. And my goal is to become a node in a network in a web of transformational change. So we've used a lot of tools. There was a lot of decisions and planning that went into designing the structure that we're building. And it will be a passive house and following the FIAS standards, so you can learn more about that if you are interested. There's a tool called the BEAM estimator, Building Emissions Accounting for Materials, to look at the embodied carbon in the materials that we're using, whether to use concrete or steel for retaining walls or rock walls. And then there's also the question of cost. So we're trading off all these different factors. We looked at the habitable future tool of healthier materials for people and planet to try to have the least toxic materials that we could. The living future has several standards, tools, declare, red list, living building challenge that are been helpful to us. And then we're getting wood from Sustainable Northwest. So it's forest certified wood. And the building has a number of tools and systems. For heating, cooling, and hot water with one heat pump, we're using Aris Hydronics, which is a new company, so we're a pilot site for them. We're using solar photovoltaics and backup battery and energy monitoring and EV charging. We're collecting, we have 3 500-gallon tanks to collect rainwater to keep our trees and garden alive during heat and drought, which will get worse as climate change intensifies. And then it also could be a backup emergency water supply for earthquake or other disaster. And we'll be able to turn it into potable water in the future, but right now we're just using it for irrigation. We're using sustainably sourced wood and carbon sequestering concrete with a recipe from a company called Solid Carbon that includes biochar and slag to make the concrete a carbon positive material. We're using multiple types of insulation, including cork. With the metal roof, I wanted to have a non-toxic coating. It turns out that wasn't possible, so we're getting the least toxic coating. And then we'll be using low VOC paints and adhesives for better indoor air quality. The original structure was built in 1925. It was the first radio station in Portland. And you can see there were the bolts for the radio tower were there when we disassembled the building and deconstructed it. The new building will look something like this. We'll have a mural on the front concrete wall, and there'll be an apartment upstairs and a gathering space downstairs. We're also redoing the garden to be more sustainable, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So we started excavating and putting in the forms for the solid carbon concrete. There are the walls and the floor going in. Underneath the concrete floor is this thick insulation. And Forest Service certified wood. This is how the structure looked about a week ago, and this is what it looks like now. So they're starting to put the walls up, and we're going to have a building within a year and it'll be done. So the gathering space will have tours for sustainable building design, which are going to actually start next month before the walls are sealed in. So the contractors and the designers and builders who are coming to see it will be able to see what it's like on the inside. And we'll hold community potlucks and canning and seed exchange and skill sharing. We'll have garden work days and yoga and music inside if it's raining or out in the garden, art for kids and other kinds of celebrations. The garden will have plants that will make pollinators happy, and native plants will be growing vegetables and herbs and fruit, berries and tree fruit like apples and persimmons, and flowers. We'll have a place to host different kinds of bees, and along the edges where the sidewalk is, we'll have some berries that people can help themselves to as they walk by. So my call to action is I welcome your feedback, your ideas, your resources, other centers for resilience that you know about, challenges. You can reach me at hello@minervaventures.com or my Substack, Minerva's View. And that is the Center for Resilience. It's in progress right now.
Holy moly. Yeah, just blown away by the level of personalizing the thing of yeah, just the beauty of you realizing that your mentor and this teacher of yours had passed the baton, and that it's like, how do I stop trying to change other people? What does it look like to just be that myself? And it's so clearly thought through and so clearly um yeah, like really well designed. And so I'm curious if is there a time, is it already possible for people if they're in Portland or coming through Portland to come and visit?
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a kind of a formal tour a couple days in August. So
Okay.
that I would recommend focusing on that, but I'd be happy to show people what we're up to. It's still kind of early stages. The garden is, I have a couple of trees planted, but the transformation of the garden is going to be the next phase after the outside construction is done. When they're working on the inside, we can probably in the fall start working on re-landscaping the garden. But I'm happy to share with people and have people come and see it.
Yeah. I think my last question around it is it also seems like such a powerful recipe. Like it's there's an opportunity in the template of the thing, and I'm curious if you're documenting that and if you have plans to share
Yes.
like
So the contractor is writing articles and teaching. He is an instructor for the passive house method of building, and he's organizing some of these talks. I've already been invited to give talks to other groups as well, so I expect that will continue, and um, and then I really that we'll have videos. I haven't really developed the resources on my website yet. I'm hoping to get some help for that, but we'll have short videos talking with, for example, the solid carbon people who have the recipe for the concrete that captures carbon instead of just being one of the worst building materials there is in terms of its carbon footprint. The windows, everything we're doing with the hydronic system, we're trying to teach people about it and kind of spread the word and help elevate those solutions. And also, a lot of people walk by. I live on the one end of the street, and the other end is a park. So people walk by with their kids and their dogs and their friends, and we already have a QR code there that people can kind of learn a little bit about the project. But I'm trying to really inspire my neighbors, who are people who have influence in their own circles, to be able to think about what can they do at their homes or at their companies or in the organizations that they are involved with to take a bolder approach to thinking about how they invest their funds and their resources.
thank you so much. It's so inspiring. May this sort of work and way of being and design and construction ripple out and find itself propagating in all of the places that we live.
Thank you
So
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 much.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Ariana. Um, and then I have the privilege of inviting our next revolutionary forward, Patricia Sogayar. And in this session, we're going to discover how coherence can unlock trust, collective intelligence, and more effective action across teams, communities, and ecosystems. And quickly, Patricia's bio. is Patricia Sogayar is a regenerative systems catalyst, facilitator, and experience designer with over 20 years of cross-sector experience spanning business, civil society, education, eco-villages, and global change networks across 11 countries. So quite the privilege that we have today to be hearing from you, Patricia. Thank you so much. And I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mark, and everyone that is here. It's a pleasure to be sharing here. And I would start even with a question, because I know we all here are kind of contributing to this better world. So would you like to make that with kind of less effort and more abundance? Please make a sign if that's what we all want, right? Yes, yes. So I'm also that change maker wanting to make that difference. And I see you also saw here so many wonderful projects and all around in all those countries and spaces. I find just wonderful people, lovely initiatives. And I really ask myself, like, what can you visualize? What could happen if we put them together and kind of coordinate the efforts towards more impact without coordinating really all the resources we have? So the methodology is not a theory. It comes from this quest that I had. And the first question started like, how can we create spaces where people can reconnect with themselves, with the earth, with the universe, with each other? And that's how Casa Oasis started. And then what I learned is that collaboration, it just doesn't come simply by bringing people by proximity. It needs coherence, right? And coherence needs courage. Really courage to go there inside, as Mariana was saying, like, what about me? You know, what are my fears? What do I need to change? Like, how can I align? Because if we don't go there, our actions will be fragmented. So we won't get to the higher potential that we could. And that's how Phoenix Passage started, which one aspect, one journey of it you can visit in New Art City. That we've done together with Daniel in a very flowing way, emergent way, I would say. And then from that, a deeper question came. So if coherence then is possible, because we've worked with those levels of coherence, then what could become possible if we did it as a collective, like really sensing the system as a collective, seeing the leverage points as we were saying before, seeing the blind spots together, seeing where to put our energy as a collective. And there we have the 4D and other methods for that. And when I realize when we have all of that, we can start focusing less on our own project, our own thing, and start seeing the greater system and operating to contribute to that greater system with whatever possibilities we have. And when you do that, abundance kind of opens up. And that's how Gaia Coordination Lab started, and the Fund of Funds. So we will talk more about all of those, because this is kind of a whole living architecture that came. We will talk about that later today. But this methodology is also a way to integrate all those aspects of coherence, facing fear, and embodiment, because it's not just about theoretical processes, it's about really doing it together. So in a way, this methodology is a possibility if you are already thriving and you want to have more impact, or if you see you are still struggling and you could optimize. When I say you, it's like you, an organization, a corporation, a community, an ecosystem. So it's a way that we optimize our efforts to really coordinate the actions in a coherent way. So if that resonates with you, I would invite you to reach out if you have more questions or details, or if you want to know how to apply that in your own context. And if you want to have a taste of it, to experience here in a while, like in a 1 hour session where it's not going to be like a whole theoretic thing, we'll get a chance to experience a little bit of that. So that's the invitation. And there is a very important thing that I wanted already to tell you, because this is not like, this is one methodology. It's kind of a meta frame, like a methodology. And with Daniel here, we are also developing it in a way that we can bring. And I would love to share here my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. It can become an open source frame that brings together many different methodologies. So this is kind of the methodology itself that we are talking relates to inner, relational, collective, and systemic coordination, plus facing fear, embodiment, and in the center, love, sustaining all. And here you can see, like, we just bring some of them, but to each of those coherence places, we could bring many methodologies that are already in place. So it's kind of a way to integrate everything in one place, making it open source, making people be able to choose their own trail. So that's the next step that comes for this methodology. And we are happy to share more about that soon. But if you want to experience a little bit, come to the session in a while and experience some of those possibilities of living inner coherence, relational trust, collective intelligence. Thank you, and I hope to see you there.
What a lovely share, Patricia. Thank you so much. I hope I get to be in your choose your own adventure room to get to fully witness the full offering. It's been so wonderful watching all of this wealth of insight that you're crafting evolve over time. So thank you.
Thank you for creating this container for us to allow this creativity to come.
We are all co-creators in building this container together. Absolutely. Well, and it's my pleasure now to welcome up to the stage John Ackerman.
Yeah, thank you.
John is a visionary engineer and artist redefining technology via ecological reciprocity. Partnering with the genius inherent to life, he translates the states of serenity, contentment, and presence into modular, bio-integrated technology. John, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really amazing weekend so far. Really looking forward to sharing a little bit and hearing all the rest. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got some slides prepared that I would like to show. Okay. Hopefully that's the correct one. Uh-oh, I should have done the tech check. I don't know, I haven't provided my system access. Let me do this real quick. I can talk a little bit about my project while I'm doing this. So I've been working on mapping out solutions to pretty much the cradle to death philosophy of our current systems, which is that we can buy stuff and then throw it in the trash and then we never have to worry about it again. And that's just unsustainable. And we all know it, and we all feel it. And even if we ignore it or pretend like it isn't happening, it most certainly is. It looks like I'm not going to be able to share the slides, but I can share some maybe images in the chat instead.
John, if you want to send me your slides, I can put them up for you.
Okay, it's a Google Doc or
That's
a
fine.
Google slide. Does that work?
Just make sure it's viewable by anyone, and I can put it up for you.
Perfect. That will help so much.
Yeah, no worries. All good.
Link.
And maybe while you do that,
All right.
our lovely MC can hold space for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I have been, getting to be a little bit on this journey with John here, and it's been really neat watching you integrate this, technical background that you have with this desire to live in a multimodal way of being in relationship to things, and what emerges from that. And so I'm very curious to see the images. Thanks for getting them up there, Roxy.
Yeah, thanks so much. So this is Regeneration Enterprise. This is my declaration of what I'm doing with my life. This is my effort to not fix, but work with the challenges that we're faced with today. And this is an invitation to interdependence. So my view of things, the way we ought to act as we are now, given all we know and all our technology, is to evolve lovingly, to use all of our capacities for protection, for helping one another, for even helping ourselves, because we can't help anybody else if we're not, if we don't have what we need. And so one of my most basic guiding principles is this: to evolve lovingly. One of the major problems I see with our technology is that it's all very hard-bodied and rigid. And while it's functional, it's not safe and it's not really very beautiful. And as human beings, we need to experience beauty. And for millennia, we've been out in nature, which is essentially beautiful. And just for the past few hundred years, we've been living in these very tightly controlled spaces that we can add beauty to, but we don't have to. We can grow with nature. We can design symbiotically, not even just biomimetically, but actually working with, for instance, moss in concrete, to help it breathe and to be a literal carbon sink. We could be essentially growing green structures, which is just one of the many really exciting routes that I'm walking down. If you go to the next slide, please. So another philosophy point is how to work with something intense, how to work with something that's in normal, like car travel, for instance, would be catastrophic, like oil slick road and the car slides off the road. How to work with what would normally cause malfunctions. And this is another issue of our current technology, that it's just not safe enough. And it works, but it could be better. And that's why I'm working to evolve, not necessarily replace, but to offer a new solution, a new possibility. And so this tenet, this point, is to move like a murmuration, to actually not force our transportation into, this way, that way, but to actually move as a flock. And when birds fly in flocks because there's less energy needed for the ones following behind. And so we could use that as just one design point. That sort of motion in all of our technology and all of our thinking and all of our processing in our computers to not have to be so hard on the outside because the whole movement is fluid. Next slide, please. So to do this, I have designed and am continually improving upon what I call the infrastructure of interdependence. And these are broken into 3 distinct categories, and they're mirrored after my own nature, which is the nature that's closest to me, which is my mind, my heart, and my body. And if we can go to the next slide. So the first piece that I've been working on is what I call serenity. And it's the serenity of the mind that I'm working to achieve. And serenity is found through the mind feeling able and plugged in and connected, interconnected, needed, able to work, able to give, intelligent, funny, kind, compassionate, these sorts of things. And typically a computer can't really do much of that. It can compute things. We've given it we've taught it a lot of information and sort of shown it how to act like a human. But the next step would be to actually program it with livingness, with the feedback ability to show when conditions are out of whack, when it's too humid, or when there's too much water in one system and needs to flow somewhere else. And since these aren't simply totally separate individual units of like sort of all closed circuits, they can communicate with each other. And another design principle is that the waste, so-called waste, the output of one particular system is just an input for another system that needs whatever that is. And so the challenge just becomes getting it there. And if we could go to the next slide and get to that point. So the heart aspect is what I call presence. And it's the quality of being with totally, being available, being open, being receptive, being loving, really, being kind, and being able to flow, being able to fluctuate, being able to breathe. And so this is where movement comes in. This is where the hard-bodied, rigid structure turns into the bone structure. So we don't have to throw away our tech, our current structure, but we just haven't really completed them. And so what I'm envisioning is an algae agar hydrogel lattice on the outside, like skin cells, literally, that breathe and act as a sort of fluid heat sink. Another major issue of our tech is that it all heats up so much, and we're just dumping that heat into the atmosphere, and we know it just keeps heating up, and the glaciers are melting, and there's all kinds of problems. And if we don't solve it, then we're toast, and I don't want to be toast. And so this presence idea, this is actually the body that moves through across the ground, through water, over the air. And it's using a sort of like a jellyfish, a central membrane that pulses with the atmosphere. And also intrinsic to serenity is water flows through each node. There's 8 nodes of the system I've worked out. And each one feeds into the other in this way it's very low energy need. And then if we go on to the third aspect. This third aspect is called contentment. And this is modeled after the body. This is the actual sort of the more permanent structure. This is what I envision to be a home. This is also modular. It could be sort of condensed down into a camping unit or expanded out into a whole skyscraper. And this is where a lot of the sharing of resources comes in, where these structures are symbiotically linked to each other, such that they can, sort of like tree roots, can share resources so that one contentment unit that has an abundance of salt water, say, can send that to one that is in need of salt water, that needs it for some process. And then it's also working in things like composting to create heat, to create soil, to create methane, which burns really cleanly. It's one of the best burning natural gases. And also, since the skin is breathable, and the whole system is literally alive, we won't need so much of our climate control systems because it'll be done naturally by like plants that pull humidity out of the air, or a composting engine which can drive water through pipes, so you have plumbing, things like that. Okay, next slide. So again, one of the key points, the essential sort of relational tenets of this whole system is that abundance flows where it's needed. Wherever the most vulnerable are, the abundance of somewhere else in the system goes there. And this is working the principle that in nature there is enough, and we simply have to act as nature and to demonstrate that. Another point is that there's no waste. Again, it's all just system flows one into the other, as the Earth is, and as the solar system is, and as the human body is. But we sort of, in our thinking in recent times, have kind of forgotten that. And so we just need to come back a little bit and remember that that it all works out if we work with. And the final point of this is that our inputs, our motion, are actually power generating also. I have a whole, again, another system, kind of subsystem, I guess, worked out where it's almost like exercise equipment that harvests the power generated by the person, like an electrical bike that harvests the motion to create a current and store it in a battery. A whole floor could be, or a sidewalk could be made of this essential lattice structure that generates power by just being walked on or being interacted with, or even potentially being like fought with, like wrestled with, sort of, or used as a toy, as a ball. Like there's so many potential applications. All right, next slide. So the idea of time, and the idea of schedules, and the idea of sort of linear time is something that has been really useful and continues to be really useful. We couldn't do much of our gathering without it, or our coordinating without it. And so there's that chronos time of like, you have this and that's it. But there's also kairos time, and we need both of them. We also need time for serenity and for contentment and for presence to really settle, and for us to actually sort of have an embodied sense of them. We also need that kairos time. And I'm kind of rushing through all my points right now, and I can't really get into that at the moment, but it's been imperative to my whole design process to cycle back and forth between these two aspects of our being. So I'm currently working to create what I'm calling a minimum viable cell, which is sort of like a first example prototype. I don't have it complete yet, but I'm hoping to soon. And this is all, I just need to sort of note, it's all very difficult work that we're doing here. It's leading edge, it's full of love, it's trying to shift a whole species. We're in it for the long haul. Nothing happens overnight. And if it does, it's probably something we don't really want to happen. And we just need to, I think, be patient and kind and loving, and to accept and work with those who don't really get it, that don't really align with our view, that maybe need to see it a different way, or to see how it works, kind of, so that it doesn't feel scary to move into the future, but it feels like something that's been prepared for us. Next slide, please. So as I'm sitting here with all of you, just like to invite you all into this project. I've been kind of not really reaching out as much as I kind of feel like I should have been. And I just sent an email yesterday to Govind and Harlan, because their architecture ideas are very, very similar. And would really love to hear from people, start conversations, start working together, start sharing all the details I've worked out over the past 6 months or so. And to really get into the weeds of the details, whatever you're interested in, whatever your background is in. More than happy to dialogue with anyone. Next, please. Finally, please join the Lovolution, and let's live a life that loves us back.
So beautiful. I'm so glad we were able to get your slides up. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
me
going to
too.
bring
Thanks.
Miss Kanitha up here. Yeah, they were gorgeous. Here's your MC.
Phenomenal job, John. I always find myself ready to work with each revolutionary. So I'm going to be following up with you, Mr. John. And so I'm Miss Kanitha, the homeless CEO, Patterson. I'm the storyteller of poverty and homelessness here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I am going to give you kind of a synopsis of what I heard from John's presentation. I heard sustainable consumerism amongst all humans, an invitation to interdependence, regeneration, and enterprise, Lovolution, don't fight the old world, uh simply grow the new one. And so friction extraction, the infrastructure of interdependence is mind, heart, body. Then you have serenity, presence, and contentment. And then nature is enough. And so I'm going to pass the mic back to Roxy really quickly, and she has some words for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was incredible. Thank you, Miss Kanitha. That was a great recap. I'm so glad that, I'm just honored to always get to be in y'all's presence. You're such brilliant humans doing such important work. And thank you, John, for putting this together. I know that it was a little bit of a stretch, and it was really a gift to all of us to see this declaration. Also, it felt important for you to say, this is a declaration of my life's work. So I'm just receiving that gift, and may it be so. I am here with you in this Lovolution. You're amazing. Brilliant. All right, Miss Kanitha. So thanks for letting me have a little quick moment to take folks on a little bit of a journey right now, because we have 3 things happening. We are entering our choose your own adventure time. So there's 2 ways to look at this information now for anyone who is is currently in the live stream. You will be able to experience one of these in the live stream. There are these 3 sessions happening. So there are going to be 2 ways to get to them. If you're in the Catalyst, I'm going to share both of these links. One of them is the first one we're looking at, and then the second one is the back end of our Airtable system in case it's easier for you to navigate. So it's the same information. Basically, if you're in Catalyst looking at the agenda, you see all of these sessions. This is even more beautiful to look at. It tells you about the session. You can just click join the event and it'll take you straight to the Zoom room. And so Patricia already did a great job at explaining what the session was about, an invitation to experience the framework and the process of regenerative coherence with her. And then we have also Malcolm's Finding the Future session 3. So we did Finding the Future. We collectively found the future together for the last few days. And so this 3rd day, we are continuing that process of finding the future with Malcolm and getting your voice into this Regenera world story. And then here in the main Vision Train station, we will have the one and only Bobby Fishkin, who is going to be sharing about a map that hides the terrain. This is a really beautiful session, looking at how we're actually stacking dimensions, coming out of our silos, collaborating, and Bobby always stretches the imagination, and Miss Kanitha is going to give a really beautiful introduction more to him. So I will just say that this other view and link that I gave you just has the same information and a quick link to each of those Zoom rooms. And then whenever y'all are done, definitely come back in for our sound journey with Marv Radio. And yeah, I want to encourage everyone. I'm going to pause for a second and encourage everyone to take a moment, take a breath, decide where you want to go. And in the meantime, I will find Bobby, bring him up here so Miss Kanitha can give him a proper introduction. So we'll just have a momentary pause, take a breath, make a decision, and then in about a minute, we'll intro Bobby.
Miss Kanitha, you're muted.
Oh, I didn't know if Roxy wanted me to go ahead or not.
You know,
I was still in
you
the
were
pause.
you were in the pause. Yeah, that's good. Let's just give him one more second. And I'm trying to make it really easy. For some reason, people never want to leave the main room, which I totally get. They're like, I'm comfortable. But I still will make sure these links are super easy for y'all to just click on if you are in this main room and you want to go support these brilliant humans hosting these sessions in the other rooms. So I just put those in the chat for you. Looks like some folks have started to go find the others. And maybe we'll let you do that intro then. Welcome, Bobby, my dear. Miss Kanitha is going to introduce you properly. We love you so much. Welcome, welcome. Celebrating.
Yar.
This is super exciting. So what's happening right now, our own stories are a map that hides the terrain, peer-to-peer anecdotes and revealers of each of others' maps. So we are living maps hiding our own terrain. Together we stack dimensions of possibilities, antidotes, stories, and futures brighter than imagined, which I totally agree with that. And so, introing Bobby Fishkin, a fellow revolutionary, he co-leads Crowd Doing Systems, Change Venture Lab, Research and Development Service, learning as a professional development, and experiential learning through social innovation. And welcome, please, Mr. Bobby. I'm excited to be a part of this session.
Very grateful to be here in Design Science Studio and to be able to share with you all and integration that I think can be applied, because I think that part of the context we are in is that we arrive in reality the same way if a board game were to arrive, but without any of the spaces automatically labeled for ourselves in terms of when those spaces reflect extra yield through their multidimensional layering of meaning, of purpose. And so this means that we end up with an opportunity to reshape ourselves through finding that we can reveal for each other the places in the map where we can stack dimensionality in ways that thicken time and that give us access to the wished for futures that are actually radically more accessible than we realized. Rich context theory is a useful place to bridge to this, because they found that if you combine the stretch for peak compassion or peak empathy or peak intuition, that each of these stretches makes the others easier. And in permaculture, they talk about function stacking, because this is the layer of when each of the foods in the food forest become more thriving because the others are present. And when we talk about the context of how do we have a dimension to stretch ourselves, and why are we an embassy for that stretch in ourselves and in the world, this is partially about where we choose to be an embassy from and to. Positive deviance examples being a center point of how to say that we have a living example that we can bring into the collage of future making for ourselves. Because if an example is live enough that we can channel it, then we are in a position to bring it as an antidote to each other, that we can stretch their imagination in a way that they need. And because one stretch goal makes the others easier, sometimes all we need to do is add another dimension of positive deviance, another dimension of layering of experience in order to make feasible a place that others can thrive in. So, stepping back for a moment, we have the underlying reality that our own stories are a map that hides the terrain. And by that, we can connect to saying that we have a narrative that always feels complete. There's psychological research on not knowing our needs, and the idea that we have this default experience that suggests that, we sort of have a map based on what we have experienced in this life of what completeness looks like, right? But the layering of experience can be as multi-layered for ourselves, for our future experience design of selves. The founder of Psychedelic Puppets talks about applying every layer of experience in life that you would apply in filmmaking if you were to step into a film. And the experience of doing that for ourselves is that if we have precedents of a bright future that connect to us in the same space and time, then that can be part of how we thicken time. Because if our hopefulness and sense of feasibility and sense of accessibility of the bright future becomes transformed, then that is part of how we stretch our own sense of what's possible. And if we do that and we stack that with other layers, exampling relational layers, layers of meaning in terms of what they represent, then each of our positive deviance dimensions that we bring in can be part of a massively multidimensional potluck of narrative, that we each have effectively in that narrative potluck a dimension that is an antidote for another person, even if for us it's become taken for granted as part of our map. But our maps are radically more diverse than we realize. And so part of what we're here in the context of is how does a preferred future become feasibly reachable, become bright and accessible, become not theoretical, but become something that we are able to attune to from where we are without having to have started from a different place than here. And the first layer of that is that the context of we start with certain layers of intention, right? So those might include that there are people who have gone before us that inspired us thoroughly, and that we need to be an embassy from in order to be ourselves, right? And this is, reflective of the quote from that you have to those who know only their own generations will always remain children in their own time. Only those who collaborate with the dead will grow into their full potential. And so there's some layers of where we are an embassy that are because there's a positive deviance that is missing from the world in terms of someone that we've cherished from the past, or some example that has inspired us but is no longer being stewarded by the person, people, or group that made that possible. And then we feel compelled to take up embassy for that example, right? And so some of those are the ancient examples where the people directly who created it are not literally here to tell us about it. In that example, yesterday at the solar punk solstice, I brought an Incan whistling jar. This is a positively deviant acoustic archaeology example of the sounds that are captured, ancient animal sounds that they had pottery buried in each location of all the ancient animals that were associated with that place. And that level of deviance, that they could capture the animal sounds and preserve them for 1,000 years, and that it's a lost art of how to make these sound emulation, is a type of stretching of my mind in that dimension, right? And but that dimension is just one of a portfolio of positive deviance, you could say, that each person needs to have a curatorial journey of for themselves in their own life to recognize which things that they are championing and cherishing and curating back in, and then which things are pattern integrity that we can hold on to at a different fractal. I'd say that the example of the positive deviance in terms of global examples, you can see an example on the other side of the world that inspires you. It doesn't have to only be present to you. It also doesn't mean that you have to experience every example for it to be something that is alive to you. It depends on how you came into a relationship with the example. But the key is that each of us has relationships with examples that are alive to us, that are that where that relationship to that example is transferable. And there was a workshop at Greener Mind where the example was of an all-night jam session of nightingales and humans that was one of the more than human world great traditions of London Symphony Orchestra people traveling to jam with the birds. And I found that to extend my imagination of what's possible, because it was a example that I had no idea was a category, and then learned more that there's more than 100 sites around the world with more than 100 different species where there's been more than human world jam sessions taking place for. And the idea that that's a whole dimension of deviance. And so you could say each of these dimensions in isolation is just a place where we have wonder, but it's actually more than that, because we have the ability to draw on the pattern integrity of each to stack more dimensions into the future. Each of them changes the other dimensions, right? So when we talk about Goldilocks zones, right, there's this history of science inventing Goldilocks zones. There are more than 19 sciences that have separately coined and created Goldilocks zones. And each of them has, when they've done so, generated a shared cooperation around collective effervescence, collective thriving in that science, collective agency in that science. There's been a overlapping purpose. There's been a just definition that there's something important happening when the Goldilocks zone exists versus when it doesn't exist. And even in science, which is often structured in a very morally neutral term set, Goldilocks zones has caused each of these research nascent areas, these inchoate areas of science, to become a shared purpose laboratory of mutual research. And so if we have the ability to understand a Goldilocks zone is a Venn diagram where there's a criteria that allows that place to be something where different things could happen than elsewhere, then we can also define our Goldilocks zones through the pattern integrity of what positive deviance we are in empathy for and to and through. Because the important thing about, loving all the mycelial cross references in this weekend's Design Science Studios shares from others, because the mycelial extends to the edge of the network the ability to sense on behalf of the whole. And positive deviance examples, if I can transfer my relationship to that example alive to someone else, then they too have the ability to sense from that edge. Right? Because what we're actually doing is stacking edges, because we're in not a three-dimensional world, but a many, many, many dimensional world. The solar punk frame of, I don't just want any old future. I want a future a trillion, trillion, trillion times brighter than any future that we're going to end up with by default or on average. And I won't rest until that's the most probable future for all. That's 27 orders of magnitude brighter. Now, the solar punk's not supposed to be a far-flung future in the far ahead. It's supposed to be imminent, right? And so the idea of saying, how do we bring into the present enough time thickening experience in order to bring us into that trillion, trillion, trillion times brighter imminent future? And how do we then give us the experience design of that across every dimension? Well, there's a dimension of that, which is that life can be more compassionate, more creative, more empathetic, each of these things. And it's possible that we are in embassy for a set of positive deviance that is real to us. But guess what? The important thing about the Ubuntu here, about the interdependence, is that we can be in right relationship with a community of people who have more embassy collectively than we do individually. Because there are examples of positive deviance that are alive to each of you, and that we can take those examples and be acting on behalf of that collection of criteria, that collection of dimensionality, because we can function stack the positive deviance of everyone that we trust. Because even if that example isn't alive to us, the relation with that person is alive, and the way they speak about that example changes our relationship to example. And so the point is that what we actually have is an opportunity individually to have liberatory antidotes. Liberatory because each time we add a layer, we don't lose all the other layers, right? We are able to have a overstanding of what's possible because each of these layers has been an alive part of us, because we are building a living collage of these layers. So, it's acknowledging that there are parts of the positive deviance that reflect, the zillionth of a percent of the world that does something right. But just because it is inchoate doesn't mean it's not something that can have lasting implications. The very word inchoate is nearly 1,000 years old. And the point of what inchoate futures are is that we are taking those futures in. By example, when we have integrated the embassy in the city of Gothenburg, they have every park just about has a rain garden that is powered by gravity and has a waterworks of playground every time it rains. And so in Gothenburg, the parks get way more attended every time it rains. And every park could, in principle, do the same. This is not unique. Rain is not unique to Gothenburg. Even if it rains more there, it rains elsewhere. And so that is a layer that exists. But that's not just saying that there is underutilized capacity in society. and there are examples of sublime application of that capacity. It's saying that we have every dimension the world has ever had to be an embassy from, but we also have a fractal of that positive deviance where we are able to draw upon places that we are radically inspired. There's a part of this where we can say, if we are in search of positive deviance of, say, creativity, then we can find many examples that extend our boundaries and sense of creativity. It's not that you have only one example of a thing in that sense. My grandfather taught applied creativity for many years, and I think that that's important multi-generational legacy. So you can say there are some stewardships or some custodianships that we take on from the past. There's other layers where, in another example of human version of this, Friday the 13th has superstition attached, but it also became in my family a form of positive deviance to not recognize the superstition. In the case of my great grandfather getting let out of Auschwitz on Friday the 13th, and the having the other layer of having my grandmother get the flight to be able to marry my grandfather by going on Friday the 13th when someone else canceled their flight because of superstition. And so the positive deviance of being inoculated against norms that don't serve us, because positive deviance is not only to stretch goals for utopianization, it's also to protect us from dystopian results of being, hacked by history in the wrong kind of way. And so the positive deviance that we're able to draw upon is both the personal ones that we're in let's call it inherent embassy from and to, but then we also have the positive deviance that we go on quests that have brought us into relationship with that example. And so the idea is that when we talk about the dead have often given us more shoes to fill than we are able in isolation to fulfill. But the artwork last year I was thinking about was stepping into the lichen frame, because we can act like a lichen, which is a coalition of multiple species, multiple kingdoms of the earth, the collaborating fungi and bacteria and sometimes viruses. These lichens have, this incredible, history of radical collaboration, and we can find collaboration between the dead who've influenced us, the synthetics who can help us help us in our journeys where we need to use their complementary skills, and we can connect that to the living, and that's because self-determination theory suggests that each of our autonomy is proportionate to our requisite variety of interdisciplinary diversity, but it's also the diversity of positive deviance examples, a requisite variety of positive deviance examples, giving us the depth and breadth of dimensionality needed to thicken time. To thicken time because we're not stuck with only a timeline. We are able to experience time psychologically. Psychology shifts time as much as gravity bends time in physics. Our experience of time is as much bent and distorted by our psychology. And we can use that to our advantage because we can thicken time in terms of precedence of a bright future arriving in time. We can thicken time in terms of how we make a layering of compassion something that is precedent. If we know about the Ruas example of positive deviance in Brazil, they've had half homeless, half not homeless meals for decades in dozens of cities where they've been able to bring together social capital with a hyper compassion centered dimension. If we know that's possible, then we don't have to only think of strangers as infinitely strangerified because of culture. There's stranger taming potentiality. If we know that it has happened somewhere, it can happen anywhere. And that's this, quote unquote, N of one example. If there's one example of the thing that stretches your imagination such that bright future becomes feasible, becomes accessible, becomes integratable, then you can be an embassy on behalf of that to bright future for each of us, because you can stretch your fellow travelers, your fellow humans on kindred quest to stack their dimensions that they are in channeling, that they are in integration. You can be a peer-to-peer revealer of these equivalents of triple word scores in life, because you can reveal that, hey, when you stack, these layers, time thickens, meaning happens, and you can effectively be a part of labeling the most cherished Goldilocks zones we have in each other's journey. Because, all time is not fungible. Time is something that we can transform. And I saw Roxy raising hand, so I don't know if that means I got over time. I just wanted to.
I was just celebrating. I was like, yes, yes.
Yay!
Yeah, that's all. Just yes. Much yes, Bobby. Continue. Don't let me stop you.
Yar. So I want to acknowledge self-determination theory suggests our aspirations, goals, strategies, tactics, and are all connected to depth and breadth of cooperation. That's whether we have right relation with those who can influence us deeply and meaningfully in each dimensionality we need to reworld our sense of potentiality and accessibility to bright preferred futures, rather than feeling like we can only access dystopian futures from wherever we seem to be at that moment in time. And so this is about saying that, how do we be in right relationality to the future? I think that it is by drawing the examples that our fellow humans need into their living collage of life, and adding dimensionality to them based on the stories not only that we have, but the stories that we can retell. Because the part of this essential journey is that we are actually not only needing to live all the stories that we can channel, we actually are in right relationship with any of the stories that we can retell from an authentic place, that we have permission to retell in this journey. We can reuse stories to expand the accessibility of preferred futures, and that we can not just create a map to them for ourselves, we can reveal to each other how those same places exist in their world too, because we each have parallel maps to each other's lives, and we can stack our maps. And that's why, while I do think that we are our own stories are a map that hides the terrain, we can also become peer-to-peer antidotes and revealers of each other's maps. So I want to acknowledge that. And Roxy, what is timing? I also want to connect.
Your MC, Kane, can let you know. Kane, how much time does Bobby have?
You got 5 more minutes.
Okay. Maybe I should see if there's any questions that have come up, if that's appropriate.
I think that's a great idea, because it's such a wealth. There's like so many things. There's a lot of different points to connect here. I'm seeing a hand from Miss Kanitha.
So what I want to know first, amazing presentation, Bobby. I think it hit everybody. But I wanted to ask how, especially around the Goldilocks zones, I'm working on breaking Cinderella systems. So this really hit home with like the use of the mythology and fairy tales and like adult play and work. So I just want to know how to become expansive in what we're all building, because I feel like we're all at that precipice, but just how can we get into the expansive of our work?
I think that we can take each fractal of what we're aiming at, and we can translate that into the layers of those who share those custodianships with us. Because the one-way links being broken, two-way links having meaning, this old phrase from Ted Nelson, is something where you can draw upon that mission statements that are one way are broken. Mission statements that are two-way have meaning. We're actually in massively multidimensional stewardship in which our custodianship stacks. Imagine every environmental organization that names an overlapping list of species. Imagine that they were all collaborating to reduce duplication and share outcome goals and reuse each other's work and build on each other's work and be deeply radically cumulative. We'd have a lot more biodiversity thriving relatively if we had that happening. And so it's about that each of us are siloed because each of us are not necessarily translating our stretch goals in terms of how those stretch goals relate to their stretch goals because we're all in parallel universes, but we're not in unconnectable, unbridgeable universes. We can actually weave these worlds together because our collective connected agency is interconnected with our ability to not be isolated to our own kind of deviance of language, of narrative, of context, but to be able to find through radical collaboration, demystification, and the squiggly line of doppelganger identification, kindred quests of those who can be of deep and resonant assistance to us across dimensionalities of our need.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
You're such a wealth of knowledge. It's wild. I'm curious if there's any other questions that are popping up for folks.
Hi.
Mariette.
Put my volume up. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Bobby, because I wrote in the chat too, but you've talked about time thickening more than once, and I feel like in this presentation, I really got it, and I experienced it, and just really love that. So like, thank you for taking all of this like really deep stuff and the stretch and how we flex and all of this that you so beautifully always synthesize and put out there, and just sharing it today because it just feels it feels like an incantation and it feels really powerful. So yeah, that's my comment.
Yar.
Yar.
Also, a beautiful Miriam has her hand up. Miriam.
Hey, it's her husband, Tyler. I have a question. So, loving the conversation. When you're looking for value-based doppelgangers, or like where you were saying, the ways that the maps overlay to either, boundaries of similar points, or like you have similar veins and avenues that you're trying to solve, what are some good ways, like mentally, when you're approaching conversation or places in work where you can seek out, those mutual alignments and values? Like, so if you want to do this as a little conversation starter, it's like, or a thought form you're taking into interactions, what's a good way to try and look for those opportunities and inspire conversation around similarities?
Well, I think that there's a layer of doppelgangers sometimes have a simulacrum of similarity that doesn't automatically make them get drawn to each other. So there is a layer of establishing the meaningful bridge that, I'm not saying that there's zero journey in that. But, I do think that there's, you could talk about technical tools that like formerly called metaphor.systems, has one example where you put in a link in and it identifies what are the most similar in the world to that. So, there's like technical tools you can use, but you can also talk about, you know, the commonality that you see in people in terms of their purpose. Where does that purpose rhyme with yours? Where does their purpose rhyme? Um, where is there an upstream downstream intertwingularity, right? Because, upstream of your intervention is theirs, or downstream of your intervention is there, right? We're almost never in a well, very rarely in a magic bullet situation where you have, one solution that in isolation is panacea for that context, right? So because of that, there's a reality, which is that we each have narrative APIs in terms of where we have default intersectionality, and that means that you can build to their metaphor. You can build a bridge to their metaphor, and you can add the positive deviance you bring to where they are before building the bridge for them to reach you. You can build the bridge for you to reach them. And you could do so as a matter of your embassy from things that are alive to you that you find in mutual resonance. There's that quote from nonviolent communication founder that if you haven't found cause to collaborate with someone, it's because you haven't been creative enough in finding the cause, because we have more mutuality than we have recognition of, than we have self-awareness of. And the autopoiesis, the collective effervescence, the agency yield, the self-determination theory wish is that each of us finds a way to be fusion-powered reactors of each other's superpowers, so that the positive deviance becomes an integration that we find creates a habitat in. There are moments in time that feel like countries we've lived in terms of how much scale and scope of meaning we associate with those fractals of journeys. We have the ability to retell those stories as though they were a whole lifetime of sense making in those places. And when we thicken time, we recognize that there's layers of abundance that we have access to if we can have our precedents of hopeful futures and our multisensory and multidisciplinary and multi-relational dimensionalities stack sufficiently so that we thicken time, because we don't have to be stuck on a timeline. We can be in a story web, but we can still thicken our experience of each moment in time in the journey so that we can have a right relationship to the future based on every dimensionality we've come to love and cherish from every past living experience that we've had, and that those we trust and have curated into our lives have had in chosen family consequence and chosen community consequence, so that we can be as radically cumulative as our wishes would call us to be, in order to be able to unfold them into reality in ways we wish.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful response, and I love how many different inspiring avenues were brought into that. There's a lot to work with in both the communication aspect, the way that you could branch out on values, perception of, I love your metaphor of building, to try and find, because it's like, I came at it with the question of how do you find, and the answer was, not just how do you find, but how do you build, how do you craft, how do you turn this into an active experience too, which in and of itself is value. So thank you. That was a beautiful response, and
Yeah.
Yar. Any other questions?
That's my sister's husband, Tyler. He's awesome. Very
Oh,
smart.
wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Well, and I have the sense that we could do this until 5. But I think it's time to transition to the next folk. Thank you so much, Bobby. That was incredible. And I was painting, as you can't see it, but I was painting, that's why I was looking down. It helped me listen. Yeah, there's a lot to reflect there, but I think there's been ample reflection. So I'll just kind of move on to the next incredible person we have coming up. Again, thank you, Bobby. And next up, we have got Marv Radio. And at this session, we're going to have a multidimensional guided visualization with a live soundtrack using voice and instruments. And Marv is a 3 times UK beatbox champion, vocal alchemist, sound healer, coach, rap singer, voice activation, breath work, and embodied presence.
Multi-hyphen.
Yeah. Multi-talented, triple, quadruple, however, whatever function, 8 times threat. Super stoked to have you here, Marv.
Super stoked to be here. I'm just a little sad I couldn't be here to witness, I just caught the tail end of Bobby, and the way he's weaving words is wondrous. And I am going to literally watch all the recordings back, because I feel like I've been in the Spanish time zone. It's a little bit difficult to join you guys all the time, but I'm just know that in the quantum entanglement of the fact that I'm already going to commit the time to watch all 3 days back, that I've been here for all of it. So this is, well, it's as passive as you want it to be, but it's also an active time for you to integrate. So you can have your screens on, you can have them off, you can sit down, you can lie down. Very highly encouraged that you have some headphones or a speaker or something, because this is a stereo experience and I'll be making all the sound live. The only real guidance that I'll give in terms of breath for this journey is to breathe slowly and to feel that breath, and to breathe deeply, steadily, smoothly, and really sense that breath. This is a time with so much beautiful sharing that is on the mental and heart level. This is a time to integrate everything that you've been experiencing, everything that you've been witnessing, and to take it in. And the thread that I really caught at the end of Bobby's talk is that idea of us weaving that oneness, but coming back to that thread that connects us all, which is the reason why we're all here. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone at Regen Era Rising for all this beautiful, beautiful work and all these wonderful people coming together. And that's probably enough for me to introduce this. Enjoy, breathe deeply, connect, and here is your soundscape. While the soundscape is being built, just tune into the sounds, tune into your breath, tune into your energy, and just allow yourself to be present and to feel what is true for you in this moment. flowing in, tuning into the sounds, tuning into the breath, tuning into my voice, which will be your guide for this journey. Take a moment to reflect on all that you've experienced so far in this wonderful, strong end, because there's been no weakness here. This wonderful weaving of wizards of wondrous worlds sharing their visions on a train that both continues moving but is able to stop at every station and bring more and more of your tribe, your vibe, into its loco motion. As you breathe, imagine that your breath is liquid and you are sipping an eternal potion that connects you to the universal energy of love and devotion. Ocean in a drop and a drop in the ocean. Witness your thoughts in motion and the wisdom in each and every emotion. Explore what it means to both be grounded and floating. And in each breath, this medicine weaves a golden thread that connects from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. And feel that thread envelops your heart, this beautiful, pumping, rhythmic piece of art that guides you to feel, that pumps your blood around your body. Feel in any order that you wish as all of your energy centers come online, shining the light so bright and divine. Feeling the waves that once you observe become particles in your body. This wave, like the endless crashing of the ocean, connecting you back to who you truly are and what we all are. This divine creation, witnessing and creating itself, subdividing fractally to learn, to experience and feel. And as you feel every cell coming online and this golden thread weaving around your spine, remember that anything you witness, anything you feel is a reflection or a lesson, something you chose. Witness each and every obstacle that you may feel in your body, for we all have them from time to time. Each and every obstacle in the field, instead of wishing them away, know that these are the essential tools for growth. Sometimes we can go over them, sometimes underneath, sometimes around, but always we go through. Just take a moment to meditate on all of the experiences, past, present, and future, that make you you. An individual representation of the eternal whole, the eternal soul. And as you allow this golden thread to unfold, feel how it now becomes a wave. And this wave, this golden thread, this beautiful undulation takes you back back through the birth canal, back through the gestation within your mother's womb, back through your ancestors' dreams, the purpose with which you have come to this planet, this endless thread, continuing beyond the realm of the ancestors to our one shared ancestor. The thread inherited through dreaming, and keep following that thread back to that first impulse in that dark womb of possibility, that which does not experience, that which does not think or feel, but only dreams of the possibility of separating dark and light, as that dark and light becomes a dance, mirroring at first. But this womb cannot experience if it can predict. And in its first iteration, the dance is oh so predictable. So from dark and light, we get black and white, and we create a chessboard. But we're bored of this board because it does nothing. So we create the possibility of hands, and the hands whittle chess pieces, pawns, rooks, bishops, knights, kings, queens. Once again, these inanimate objects are nothing without the will to move them with the hands. So we create these rules and tell these pieces, move this way, move that way. Restriction creates identity. But still, in this game of right hand versus left hand, it's all too predictable. So from this space, the left hand must forget that it's the left hand. The right hand must forget that it's the right hand. And for a moment, forget the beating heart that connects the two. Through this separation, we create the illusion of conflict, of harmony, of dissonance. And what a wonderful creation it is, for this is what allows us to feel. That's what I'm inviting you to do here. Feel. Feel as the chess piece that you are, that you can always come back through the left and right hand. In fact, in your body right now, feel the electromagnetic pulses in the center of both hands. And witness how you can open a portal to connect back, join the left wing, the right wing, come back to that heart where it all starts. And I invite you to stay in this vision, stay in this experience, this expanse. As you become the true time traveler that can move down to the smallest detail and up to the widest picture, back to that womb that's dreaming, down to each individual cell within your body that's beaming. And from that point of dreamer, with all the wonderful words that have been woven, with all the dreams that have been shared, I invite you with each breath, with each moment, to start painting in your mind's eye or in your heart's vision, maybe a vibration, maybe words, what this true regen era rising looks like. When all the work is done, and sure, the work shall always continue, but let's allow ourselves for this moment to experience what it is to be within the realization of our dreams, without limit. And in this space, taking every detail you can experience, shape, sound, taste, smell, feeling, as we go to a place beyond words that allows your true inner genius, that child that was born knowing all, to guide through curiosity as the words fade away. And in this place of infinite realization, witness before you a giant ornate mirror with beautiful, beautiful framing, fashionings, the most beautiful mirror you can imagine. And in this mirror, beyond this momentary egoic experience of separation, you see yourself as the creator, the puppet master, the one who pulls the strings. And from this place, you see yourself reflected, but this version of you is somehow different and somehow so familiar. Maybe the hair has changed. Maybe the clothes that you're wearing are completely different. Whatever you see here, notice this smile and feel this heart, this beating heart, that 1 and 0, that binary code that separates the darkness from light to weave experience, present in your heart. And on your next inhalation, I invite you to hold at the top. And when you're ready, as you witness this mirror becoming liquid, you're going to release with a sound, a tone, and step into this liquid mirror and become this divine version of yourself in fullness. And invite this version of yourself to be present and accessible in all moments, in the ups and downs, in the times where you're surrounded by support, and the times where you feel entirely alone. Allow yourself to inherit yourself and embody your divine essence. The rhythm activates your terrestrial body in connection with this divine version of yourself as you guide yourself to allow that divine version to inhabit every essence of your being. There's something so innate that happens when we hear rhythm. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's grand, as you welcome that divine dreaming weaved through the womb of dreaming into the dark and light dance, into the chessboard, into the chess pieces. Left hand, right hand, rules and limitations. Remember that everything you witness was made as a construct of love. To ask yourself, how will you move through it all? So as you feel this rhythm, as you feel connected to that divine source, allow your body to move in any way that feels natural to you. And see how much you can stay in both of these realms. The realm of unity, where all of the dreams have already been achieved simply through the act of dreaming. And all the way down to this beautiful, brief human experience. Can you maintain that golden thread as the music brings us home? Welcome back home. Deep into the earth, for we are the sea. Becomes a tree, the fruit that we eat. Cycle repeat, for we are the sea. Become the tree. Fruit that we eat, cycle repeat, for we are the seed, become the tree. The fruit that we eat, cycle repeat, for we are the seed, becomes a tree. Fruit that we eat, cycle repeat, cycle complete, cycle repeat, cycle complete, cycle repeat, cycle complete. So as I close this session, thank you for being here with me, for your openness to go on this journey. And most of all, be kind to yourself, even in the most challenging times, because it's all by your design, and you've arrived here in perfect time. My name is Marv Radio. It's been my absolute pleasure to share this with you. And I'm almost sad that the online portion is going to change and end. But I'm looking forward to seeing y'all in person. I'm going to manifest it. I tried to do it the last 2 years. It didn't happen, but I want to come see some of you in person. Thank you for having me.
Of course, love. You know, we're gathering in person here in a few weeks. You should come.
If I can find a way.
It would be amazing. Oh, that was so, I needed that so much. I'd love to see some signs of life out there from folks on camera. How we feeling? Yes. Can we do a little unmute? Love share.
Also really needed it. Juicy. Thank you, Marv.
Woo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And you have a thing coming up, right? in Egypt. Can you tell everybody about it?
Yes, so let me take that reverb off. Yeah, I would love to. I'm weaving in October. It's a little bit short notice, but a wondrous pilgrimage through Egypt. And it is an activation of the voices, an activation of our divine sovereignty. And it will be my 6th time in Egypt. We will go to the sacred sites. We'll go to the King's Chamber for private visits. We'll go to the Red Sea, to the Sinai Desert. We'll take a nice cruise on the boat from Aswan to Luxor and visit some of the most beautiful temples. You never have enough time to do. It isn't with Carl, but I do know Carl. But yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful journey, and I'm just in the process of putting together all the pages for it. I'm a little bit slow in my admin life, but the vision is to bring 15 people on a pilgrimage that allows us to step into our divine sovereign. And the idea is that we will co-weave and bring our projects, very inspired by this, of course, that we'll be able to co-facilitate. I'll be doing some vocal alchemy to help align the voice, breath work. We'll be doing Nile baptisms. There's so much to say about it, but this week I'm going to be putting everything together. And if you'd like to find out more, you can reach out to me at info@marvradio.com. Or if you'd like to have a chat, you can go to calendly.com/marvradio/discover. marvradio.com for all things me. Ugh, it's weird to say. But yeah, I would love to see some of y'all there. I'm doing my best to make sure that it is as epic as these $10,000 trips and half the price at maximum. And I believe I can do that through the contacts I have. So, well, I know I can because I've already spoken about it. But anyway, I don't want to go on and on and on about it because we're short on time, and I think I may have gone a little bit over. So if anyone wants to hear more about it, you can reach out to me. We can have a chat about it. And, oh, yeah, also the solar alignment at Abu Simbel, which was the great temple they revived from the water, is on my birthday, October the 22nd, and that's one of the reasons why this tour. Yeah, so we get to go and see the solar alignment in the Holy of Holies, and it's very orchestrated by the heavens and the astrology. Now, thank you. I can go on forever. I'm going to stop there so I don't eat into my time anymore. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, and I love you all so much. Keep beaming your magic, keep rising, and keep regenerating.
Love you, Marv. Thank you so, so much. Love you, love you, love you. That was a blessing. You are a blessing. So grateful for you. Ah, incredible. And a bunch of your alumni are in here with you. There's a bunch of folks from Cohort 3 who are like, Marv, in the chat. So yeah, the family grows. Oh, beautiful. Well, that was incredible. And yeah, now it's time to bring Yadira over. I think she might still be doing her tech check. Kane, you want to do me a favor and jump in the tech check room and tell them it's time? That would be great. Yeah, well, while she comes up here, I'll just say thank you, y'all. Like, for everybody who's in the Zoom right now, for everybody who's on one of the 8 different live streams that are going on. It is important to show up for each other like this. Everybody's sharing so much of their heart, their vision. This is a big moment for a lot of folks in the Design Science Studio. For this cohort, they've been at it for 7 months straight, 2 sessions a week, most of every week, sometimes more, and developing their projects, developing their work, incubating themselves. You know, we're all developing. It's an evolutionary container and community of practice for unlearning and learning all of the time. And in this process, it takes a village. Turns out it takes a village to build a village. And so showing up for each other like this and encouraging each other and reflecting back what's resonating and doing what you're doing in the chat so beautifully, like making connections, threading, you know, just reflecting to encourage each other to keep doing this vital, vital, vital healing work for the world. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for all you are, all you do. It's really, 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 really special to get to be rising together. My name is Roxy. In Regenera these days, they call me Dandelion. I'm the director and architect of the Design Science Studio, and I'm super honored to get to actually introduce Yaya. I think she might be back from, yes, she's back from the breakout room. Perfect. one of our wonderful partners in the Design Science Studio, Future of Cities, is based in Miami. And that's actually where I think how we first met was through Tony and through that whole crew. And now you're here with us, and we're so lucky that we get to weave with you. And you're just such an inspiration, and it's been really a joy to get to be in this journey together and have you and your incredible capacity as an artist that is really backed by research and with weaving experience design and storytelling and bridging wellness with climate action to help heal the future through all of the different things that you facilitate: workshops, retreats, conferences, festivals. We're going to be experiencing Visions Fast, how to journey with the mind's eye. And so with that, I know that this format has ebbed and flowed, and so I will let you take it from here, love. Welcome. Thank you. It's been such an honor to have you in Cohort 4.
Thank you so much, Roxy, and what a pleasure to experience the magic of Marv Radio right before. It's so cool to see what's possible with digital media and sharing on a Zoom format for sound journeys. I'm definitely very inspired, Marv, and I think you've really warmed up everyone to open up their imagination. That's very much what my presentation today is going to be about. I recently returned from a Vision Fast experience, which is like a vision quest. It's an indigenous rite of passage. And I came back from that experience with many visions, really deeply rooted in my ancestral work and my connection and mission in being part of regenerative future. But I noticed that my peers in the Vision Fast community didn't actually have the same like go-to toolkit for visioning that I had. So I made it a integration mission to actually share this skill with other people, to visualize not just through a guided meditation, but actually learn a structure on how to receive visions. So my presentation today is going to be in 3 parts. It's going to be like 5 minutes of me explaining my journey and my process and channeling visions, and gift you all a structure in which to embody this visualization imagination tool. And then we'll listen to a shamanic journeying drumming track. So just straight up the drum, constantly going. And then you'll go on that own journey, and then hopefully we can have like a 5-minute debrief afterwards. So with that, we'll begin. When I say journeying through the mind's eye, I mean using our imagination. So before we had TV or Netflix or VR, we gathered around the fire and imagined and told stories. So this is very much where this ancient technology is coming from. And I was able to tap into this ancient technology. And as you can see in this cute photo selfie of me, I didn't use my technology at all. I was alone in the mountains of Tennessee for 3 days without eating and only drinking water, and really like merging with the environment and finding my own rhythm, my own structure. I ability to envision using the shamanic drum as a way to hold the focus, hold the intention. And I'll be sharing what came through and how to maybe combine different tools to do it, and then you'll get a chance to do it yourself. I included here also some sweet photos of some fellow journey adventurers who also went through this rite of passage with me. And it's definitely a kind of death ceremony of crossing the threshold from who you were to who you're becoming, and really process with a deep level of maturity who you are, who you're becoming, and what you're channeling. And of course, I had 6 human teachers, and I also read 6 books in preparation along the way, including Restoring the Kinship Worldview, The Deep Ecology Movement Anthology. This really lovely book called Journey to the Sacred Mountain emerged in our studies while we were up there at the Narrow Ridge Earth Literacy Center. It tells the story of Jumping Mouth, and tells the story of how do we pursue our visions through the great building of character, sacrifice, devotion, and sharing our gifts. as well as The Dream of the Earth by Thomas Berry, which has been a big inspiration for me in terms of how do we dream with the earth and channel the visions that the earth wants to dream through us, the dreams that our ancestors want to dream through us. And then the Four Shields methodology, which is crucial to the School of Lost Borders, which is an organization that has somewhat formalized the vision fast process so that many people can share it in their land. And all of this is within the context of my own background, doing a lot of ancestral research and healing. I'm Cuban and Afro-Indigenous, and my family has taught me a lot about African traditional practices through what people usually know as Santeria, which is like a religious practice that survived slavery and was passed down and continues to thrive with a lot of cultural abundance into the present day. Not only in Cuba, but in New Orleans, in Brazil, all across the Caribbean, honoring the Orishas. And then I also have reclaimed in my own journey in my 20s my Taino ancestry and have journeyed deeply with the Mayans in Central America, doing something called moon dance, which is a complement to Sundance, but specifically for women and their own empowerment. So it's within that real context of ancestral healing and remembrance that I took on this vision fast. And I had 3 different kinds of visions that I channeled in the morning. So there were 3 mornings, and I would sit by my yellow blanket with yellow flowers. One was an encounter with my future elder self, and in that vision I became fire and then turned into this grandmother who was speaking to me, and it took me a while to figure out that she was my future elder self, giving me guidance and wisdom in that particular present moment. The second vision I had involved turning into an eagle, and my ego kind of self-replicated, like copy, paste, and separated into another version of itself, which I recognize as a kind of soulmate, and perhaps not a literal person, but the eternal counterpart that we dance with throughout our life that may take many shapes and forms. And then the third vision was an encounter with the Council of All Beings, which was very sweet because in the process of having these visions, I discovered a traveler animal, which became the eagle. And I got the guidance of a messenger, which became the owl. And eventually the owl brought me to this teepee that had an elder, and then the elder turned into a Council of All Beings. That really gave me a lot of insight and visions into my purpose and path ahead. So I share that to give you a sense of the kinds of storytelling that can happen through the imagination. It's like having a movie inside your mind. And these are the kinds of visions that we're going to explore today, are all about finding a messenger, going through a portal and finding a messenger. But before we get into that, I want to show you how much more layered it can get with the shamanic drums. I had 2 different kinds of vision processes, and part 1 was the one I would do in the morning with just the shamanic drum and going into the mind's eye. And then I had these visions in the evenings by the fire where I was singing and I was in the container of these other rituals. I want to share with folks because I don't think people hear about these unless they've gone through these experiences, but they might find something really deep and powerful in them. You can Google most of these. First night, I wrote an unsent letter to an unresolved relationship, and I combined it with the truth mandala, which is an exercise from Joanna Maisie, where you put a stick to symbolize anger, a stone to symbolize fear, an empty bowl to symbolize emptiness or powerlessness, and some dead leaves to symbolize grief, and then you journal through each one. I added another layer of like journaling for each one, and then writing the opposite words or the opposite thoughts. So from reading everything that I wrote about anger, I transformed it into, what would be the flip coin of this. And then I also added another one for joy. I found that really deeply healing, and it was an incredible mindset shift to process relationships and re-envision relationships and emotions in this context. On the second night, I worked with the idea of a spirit squad. If folks haven't done ancestral work before, I'll share a spirit squad is a concept that appears in different cultures. In my culture in Cuba, we have something called a bóveda, where we put a cup of water to symbolize each of the ancestral spirits that we're working with, whether they are literal biological ancestors or teachers or idols, gods or goddesses, whoever you want to be calling into your spiritual fortitude. Think of it like a spiritual board of directors, maybe. And I called them, I mapped out like who was in my spirit squad. And then I went into something called the Death Lodge. So the Death Lodge is a unique ritual within the Vision Fast experience where you prepare to die and you literally go into a place in your site, wherever it's the desert or the forest. You create a space for yourself to really encounter the possibility of your own death and make peace with all of the relationships in your life. So you invite these spirits to come into your death lodge. I didn't make a literal death lodge for my actual death. I didn't feel that was relevant to me at the time, but I did make a death lodge for a transition from one stage to the other. And I would recommend combining this modality of mapping your spirit squad and then inviting these different spirits into your death lodge as you receive guidance. And then part of the teaching in the School of Lost Borders is to do some honoponos for each of these spirits that come visit you. And I love honoponos. They're a forgiveness prayer from Hawaii. Usually it's 4 words in whatever order you like, 4 phrases in whatever order you like. I like this one because it includes I forgive you. So I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, I forgive you, thank you. And I really drummed out those words to each of the spirits that came to visit me over the fire and had these really healing visions of each one of those relationships. And those relationships in conversation then gave me guidance and reassurance and healing as I walk further in my path. And then on the 3rd night, I felt so full. Like I honestly felt like I had completed my vision fast just on the 1st night from all of the incredible power of these combined meditations. But on the 3rd night, I combined a 7 directions prayer. For folks who are not familiar with Indigenous traditions, the 7 directions is the 4 directions of north, east, west, and south combined with above, which is the sky, the cosmos, and below, which is Mother Earth, and center, which is self. And I combined that with the purpose circle using the 4 shields methodology of each of the seasons, like each of the 4 directions symbolizes a different season in your life, and transitioning from each season to the next, as well as different internal psychic stages that you might be in. So that was also incredible, rather than, me talking neurotically to a therapist for a year. I cut through a lot of what would otherwise be anxiety and straight into visualizations of the most healed, beautiful, highest timeline futures for each of those directions for me. And it was really, really powerful to do that over the fire with my drum, singing, visioning in each of the directions as the sun was setting over the mountain. So I share this because I want to technology is alive and well, and that this ancient technology is within you and accessible to you, and you do not need someone to facilitate it for you. You can learn this tool and carry it with you forward, and that's the intention of this workshop. And that's what I'm gonna teach now. So this is a journey structure that I always use, and I recommend that you try it. Usually my visioning practice, I notice, is best upon waking up. So similar to how AI needs a lot of water to be able to, have the brain power to go into deep visioning, I notice that if I'm really good with my minerals and really well hydrated, I have the brain power to actually go into like high resolution visionary mode. And I'm really interested in these oracular practices of ancient cultures as a counterpoint to the alienation that we're developing between what our bodies and minds and spirits are capable of versus what technology can generate as a way to reclaim our authenticity and our power. So I'll share this journey structure, which was shared to me through various teachers, but in particular, I want to name this particular book called Rainbow Medicine. The book is like from the 70s by someone called Wolf Moondance, and it takes you through each one of her visions. She also morphs into an animal throughout and then goes on different stories. I like the book because it gives you a sense of what shape the visions can take and how to interpret the meaning of each animal, the meaning of each landscape. So there's a little bit of dream interpretation skill that you will need as you go on these kind of journeys. And then my other teacher is Michael Harner, who created and taught these, he calls them shamanic journeys with the shamanic drum. And that's the drumming track that we're going to use. I have my own shamanic drum that I made in a workshop, and this is buffalo hide, and we use a beautiful binding technique from ancient Paleolithic culture from Siberia, which reminds me of the Ouroboros, which is threading the tip of the snake's tail through the head of the snake. That's pretty much what we did in order to create this binding in the drum. But because I haven't figured out how to make sounds through Zoom with the drum that actually like sustain, we're going to use the shamanic strap. And it's a way for you to also access this. It might not be an everyday practice, but I spent a couple artist residencies just doing these dreaming exercises, especially because I'm not very good at actually remembering my own dreams. So I dream while I'm awake, going on these shamanic journeys. Before I play the drumming track, I'm going to share with you the structure, and then as we're going through the drumming track, you'll get to experience the guiding words. But essentially, it's going to be 3 drum beats to start. That's like a cue that it's beginning. And then you're going to find your hands and feet and location in your mind's eye. And you might not be in your own body. You might be another being. You might be flying. You might be digging through something. There's so many different ways that your mind can go. Another thing that's optional is finding your mode of travel. For a long time, I used to travel in a white dragon. In my latest journeys at Vision Fast, I was traveling in the form of an eagle. There's many different ways. I've traveled in a white heron before. Then you find a portal. And again, a portal is a doorway, but it can take many forms. And usually at the portal, there might be a guardian of the portal, and you can ask the guardian if there's anything they have to share. In prayer, you can greet them as a messenger. Then you go through the portal, you explore the realm, and then you find your messenger. So you're pretty much going through the portal in order to find a messenger. You introduce yourself, you make an offering, you ask for advice, and you thank them. And when you hear the 3 drum beats, that's usually when you say your goodbye, the 3 drum beats call you back. And this is the most important part of this journey structure, is that you retrace your steps. If you walk through a bridge to jump into the ocean, to emerge on the 4th floor, then you have to go or jump ocean to walk through a bridge all the way back. This retracing methodology makes sure that you don't get lost in the astral realm, and it also makes sure that you remember your steps. Usually people start with a 15-minute track. We will only do 5 minutes, but I noticed that the longer tracks that you do, you could do 45 minutes or even longer, the harder it is to remember everything that happened. But it's very helpful to write everything once you come back. And then this can be really great for creating drawings. It can be really great for sourcing material, and it's a way to cultivate our intuition and develop a relationship with our subconscious and with our own spiritual selves instead of outsourcing guidance or focusing on outward strategy or other people's voices. So I hope this is a good helpful base for you to learn the skill if one day you find yourself in a vision fast, or even if you go on a sound bath, like a regular 1 hour sound bath with sound bowls, you can actually take the same format and approach those sound journeys and see what you find as well. I'm going to click into the drumming track now. And I want to do a time check. How much time do we have left on this presentation?
Technically, you are done. You have 1 minute to go. But if you want to do a short version of this, I will try to adjust on the back end, but you'll need to like really be sharp about the outro.
Okay.
You can just share your audio and not your video. You know how to do that? Because right now it's showing video but not audio. So you have to what you'll do, and I'll walk you
let
through
me
it.
adjust share sound. Yeah,
So,
click share sound and then
so just click share and then click advanced and then click computer audio.
yeah.
And then click share. So that'll just share the audio. So share, advanced, perfect.
Okay, lovely. Well, maybe we could do like 2 minutes and see if we can get through the sequence really quickly so that people at least have it in their mind, and then we'll close out. Does that sound good?
Beautiful. Thank you for taking us on this journey.
And I'll put the link to the video in the chat as well later for folks to take this and practice, and you're welcome to screenshot the instructions. As we begin, close your eyes and open your mind's eye, finding your hands and feet and ground, noticing what body you are in, noticing where you are and how you're moving. Explore your ability to move through this realm. And perhaps you notice a creature or a machine there to journey along with you as you search for a portal, walking closer and closer. Notice the shape of the portal, how you receive the invitation into this portal, how it makes you feel. And look around to see if there's a guardian ask this guardian if they have anything they want to share about this portal. Perhaps they have a key for you, or caution. Perhaps you have something to share with them. Go through the portal. Explore the realm. Where have you landed? Have you been here before? Or is this somewhere you'd like to go? As you explore this realm, find your messenger. Make your way through to them. And introduce yourself. Make an offering. And share what's in your heart so that this messenger may offer you some advice. Notice the conversation that emerges between you. Perhaps it's in words, perhaps it's in visuals. And thank them for this nugget of wisdom. We'll be hearing our 3 drum beats to call back. And you can begin to retrace your steps back to where you started, exploring the realm, back through the portal, thanking the guardian, returning on your mode of travel until you return again into your body, back to where you started. Welcome back from the journey. Thank you so much for trying this quick introduction to this tool. I hope you take it with you. I'm going to share in the chat the video and also the instructions. I really hope everyone takes this with them and tries it out to see where you can go. For those of you that already have some shamanic drums in your house and you maybe haven't tried this tool, maybe you can try it and see where it takes you. And especially if you can't remember your dreams like I do, this might be the way to dream awake without having to master lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
And you'll find your own mythos. So thank you all so much. Happy journeying. May you have many fruitful visions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adira, for that journey. I got my drum here. Yeah. But and also thank you for sharing your Hamblecha journey, your vision quest journey. It's a powerful experience. A lot of people come into their life purpose. It's actually the point of that, is to have that vision of the future self that we're walking into, that we already are. And so I really appreciate that share in that space. And so now we are going to do a quick reset and come back into the regenerative space. So at this time, I'd like to ask our dear Roxy to reset the stream. And let me know when that happens.
Will do. And for anybody who's out there on the stream, come on in for the second half.
Yeah.
And for anyone in here, this will just be a few minute changeover. And so let this be a quick bio break if you need one. And yeah.
Take care of yourself. Hydrate thyself.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, transmission 1 of the day complete. All right. Gorgeous.